Hey guys. All right. We're diving into a very unique area. A lot of people have talked about this long time ago. Flint, Michigan. If you haven't heard about Flint, Michigan, look it up. It is an amazing story about a small little city that basically the pipes broke in their community, their water pipes, and had tons of lead in the water. Okay. The water literally is brown. The kids, the families, no, everybody's basically forced to use this water. And what they focus mostly on are the poor communities, because they were the ones that were subjected to most of this. And so I wanted to share this interesting clip called "The Crisis in Flint." It's by MB or MSNBC. They actually looked at how children are affected by lead. This is something that's really close to my heart because, one, I live in a community where mostly the houses are old, and they did use lead in certain periods. They were saying like between 1920, that's when you really want to look at how your house is built. If you have a lot of chip paint, things like that, lead can be super detrimental. It can cause brain damage. It can cause learning difficulties or disabilities. It can cause neurological damage. And if you've got a kid, I mean, think about it. Like, how many toddlers do we have that lick stuff or do something? You know what I mean? That is just so scary to think that we could have children in our communities that are actually affected by this, and we don't even think like, hey, maybe there's some toxins in their home that are actually causing the child to respond in a certain way. So we're gonna watch this video together. All right, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to learn how to kind of focus myself in certain areas here. So bear with me. Okay, let's go ahead and take a glance at this. This is really awesome. So I cannot wait for us to look at this together.
All right, guys. What are we going to make?
Jennifer Rivera is a preschool teacher in Flint. She describes her 4-year-olds as low-income, high-risk.
Thank you for my family.
Well, it breaks my heart because they already have a struggle. Everything is a struggle for them, all right? What do we do with this?
Now she watches closely every day for signs of lead poisoning.
I've noticed the speech, the articulation, and I've noticed behaviors of anger.
Right now, Flint is getting a lot of attention. Right now, these kids are getting a lot of attention. But this is the insidious part about lead exposure. The symptoms may not show in the weeks to come or even the months to come. It could take years. And every single one of these children will have to be tracked their entire childhoods.
15 and 18.
Education, good nutrition, a stable upbringing help lessen the effects of lead exposure. But those building blocks of childhood are also exactly what was lacking for so many in Flint before this ever happened.
Do you have faith that the city officials and the state officials are going to be committed to this problem and are going to do what is needed to fix it and to help these kids?
I do not at this time.
That trust is gone, isn't it?
Because they knew, in my opinion, and they let it.
Welcome back to our town hall in Flint, Michigan, where the lead exposure for this town really isn't measured in the few dozen positive lead tests we keep hearing about from state officials. The experts closest to this crisis say that the lead poisoning crisis here is actually measured in thousands of kids.
Jeez.
Every kid in Flint who drank that water is now at some risk for long-term effects. But there are things that we can do as a community and as a nation to help these kids. And apparently, the faster we act, the better. Joining us now is Dr. Mona Hanna-Atisha, the pediatrician who helped expose the elevated blood levels of Flint's children.
Good for her. I'm so glad she did that.
You can hear the way that she is viewing this film, the spontaneous innovation for Dr. Mona.
Your community appreciates you.
Lots of heroes. It took a village to save a village, so lots of heroes.
Also want to bring in State Rep Sheldon Neely, who says that he warned Governor Snyder about the water crisis here in Flint a year ago. I also want to bring in Anna Johnson, who's the principal of this very school, Homestead Academy, and who now, like a lot of other leading educators here, is confronting what the school's role is going to be in doing right by Flint kids throughout their childhood. So thank you all for being here, all leaders and heroes in this story in your own way.
Can I just pause for a second? Did you hear what she said? So there's a major crisis. The first place that they're really going is the education field. They want to know, what are we going to do? And that is something that I want us to all be very cognizant of. We have a very important job, okay? And when it comes to child development, we have to understand those milestones and where a child is supposed to go next. Because if we don't, we are going to lose track of the next steps. We're going to just allow them to go about their day, and we're not even going to be able to provide enough information to families about where their child is because we don't even know where they're at. And again, this is one of the benefits of understanding early childhood education, where a child should be, how do they grow and develop, what are red flags, what should we be sharing with families, and what should we be really documenting and really making sure that we are communicating properly about where a child is so that they can be successful in the future. Just want to point out that literally they could have put firefighters, police officers, they chose educators. That means they choose you. That means that they choose us. If they don't choose us, then what do they have? Where can they go? How can they get a hold of all of these children and help all of them? They can't. There are too many kids. But you know what there are enough of? There's enough people that are passionate out there that are willing to get that education and really push themselves to the next level so that they can be there for those kids. I applaud this lady. Applaud her.
Dr. Mona, I want to start with you. You're the person who first told not just Flint, but told the world that Flint's kids were exposed in such big numbers. Right. What do you say to Flint parents who are worried about what this means for their kids and their kids' futures?
Right. So we do what we do best as pediatricians. We provide a lot of reassurance. Not every kid is going to have every problem. So we give them hope. Our community needs hope. They are absolutely traumatized. And there's things that we can do right now. I feel that we are in a state of emergency because if we don't act for these kids now, we will see those consequences in 10, 15, 20 years. So we need to provide stable, loving home environments. We need to provide great parenting skills. We need to tell them, love your kid, read to them, do everything that you would do for them for any kid who's at risk for developmental issues. Nutrition plays a tremendous role. We have no grocery stores in Flint. We have pre-existing poor access to nutrition. So we need to bolster these kids' nutrition because that helps their brain development. We need to get them to their medical home, which is their primary care doctor, because the sooner I pick up a delay in the kid, the sooner I refer them to services, the better their outcomes. So we need a whole child approach. We need to wrap these kids around with every single resource so that we don't see those consequences. And that is our goal. We want to flip this story. We want to turn lemons into lemonade and give these kids what they need already.
Just want to pause for a second. I know I'm going to pause a lot in the videos, but hopefully this will help create like more of an interactive kind of classroom feel. I want to say something that she said. She said that when we give basically the information to the pediatrician, they go to their family takes them to the pediatrician, then they can give the referral. Where do they go? That is a key question I want to resonate in your heart. Because as educators, we need to know our community, right? So one of the things that you will have to do in your portfolio is you will need to create a resource list for your community. And we'll go more into that. But I want you to start thinking about, if a parent said, oh my goodness, Jessica, I don't know what to do. My little one is having a hard time hearing, but no one will listen to me. I don't know what to do. Can you give them somewhere they can go? If someone says, Tamara, I am trying to get my little one into speech therapy, but I don't even know where to start. Can you take them somewhere? Can you point them somewhere? Can you show them where to go? Can you let them know a little bit about their journey? You guys, going through this process, you are going to be questioned a lot about what you do. And some of us, you might be like, I'm already doing that. I'm already doing that. I'm already doing that. Awesome. Share with us in the community about what you're doing and why. That helps us to grow. If one person can pour out the information and how to do certain things, and 5 people pick that up, that's a great impact, right? So that's kind of what we're doing with one another. If you have an idea, you have things in your community that we've never even heard of, put it out there, because that helps us maybe become more inventive, and maybe that becomes a passion of ours, or we start looking for people that do what they do.
The place that kids spend more time than anywhere other than with their families is at school. Let me ask you about the resources that you've got now. I mean, how are Flint schools resourced right now? Do you have school nurses? Do you have good school nutrition programs already? Do you have stuff in place? Or do you feel like your district really needs to be transformed in order to do what Dr. Mona is talking about?
Currently, we need a lot of help. We are a cash-strapped district, but we have resilient people. Yes, we have a lot of people working very hard with the resources that we have, but we know when we look at the number of students that we're servicing, it will fall short. And no one can tell us that our children are worth it.
Are you fully stocked up in terms of school nurses, for example, in terms of special ed?
We are not. We are blessed enough to have a health navigator that allows our parents to make connections with the community. But we do not have a school nurse.
You do not have a school nurse?
We do not. None of our schools do. Usually that responsibility falls on our secretaries. I give medications. We're trained to do certain things. Again, we make do with the staff that we have who are devoted to serving our children.
Flint community schools do not have school nurses right now.
We do not. We have.
Can I just say this? Like, when you watch the first video, if you skipped over the video, you need to look at this video that was previously about food allergies. I'm making these faces because I would be freaking out if I was required to give something or do something that is so medically complicated or just complex, or you're so busy you forget to do something. Your nurse is there to help guide you and do those things for you in a school setting. I'm even like in early childhood education, it would be great for us to have like a nurse that would come in more frequently. In Washington State, we are required to have a nurse come in and check over our infants and toddlers, just to make sure that they're on track and we're following safe sleep practices. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I'll talk a little bit about that. Safe sleep practices. So, they need nurses, right? We all see that. And again, there are things that we need, and I want you to think about it in this event too. We need more resources to be connected with ECE. Okay. I know a lot of people are part of Head Start and all of these different programs, and I think they're wonderful. Like, some of these programs are the bomb. Like, I love what they do. But for the private sector, there's nothing there. And I think there are a lot of private sector educational centers that are doing some amazing things. And I feel if we had more of a platform for our students to get more services, or to get the same services that Head Start students get or other students get, I think that would be great. I really, really, really do. And I think that we could level up what we do as a community. And so to hear this information, again, I want you guys to think about what's going on, not just in our community, but global wide. It is, imagine a child needing a nurse's attention and literally there's no one on staff. Yeah. So now all of the responsibility is on the educators. That is why they have to understand where a child is supposed to be when they're in their development. As a catastrophe can hit anywhere, right? It can happen any place, anytime, anywhere. Okay, Flint just happened to be the place that I'm talking about right now. But can you honestly say if someone called, there was a natural disaster, they came and said, hey, I need you to help with the children and understanding where their development is, are they on track, or what's happening to them? Can we really say that we understand to the point where we can coach someone through what a child needs to know and how they need to know it? It's just a question out there I want to throw out there.
One at our district level.
One for all schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Michigan ranks the absolute last in the nation in terms of the recommended ratio of students to school nurses. We are the last in the entire nation.
So you're talking about a suite of things that need to be done for Flint kids that should be done for all kids everywhere, right? But Flint kids, because of what happened here, it especially needs to happen here, but it's especially not happening here already.
Right, and on an emergent basis. It needs to happen now.
Representative, you know about how the state feels about Flint, and you know what the state is capable of, and what they apparently aren't capable of in terms of Flint. Do you have faith that the state will provide this kind of resources that we're talking about here? This is very nuts and bolts stuff, not esoteric stuff.
Well, you know, our governor's been very disingenuous and very anemic as he provided relief for this community. He's been very late. But we have a great contingent. Myself and State Representative Phil Phelps and Senator Jim Ananek, we've been fighting on the state level, and money will be appropriated to those efforts to provide school nurses and other resources for the Flint community schools. I made a request. Our current school district, we owe the state of Michigan $16 million. I asked the governor to forgive those dollars so they can reappropriate those dollars for the onset of the kids they're going to have to educate in the future.
That's a great idea.
There's a lot of appetite in this room to talk about this issue with these community leaders. We're going to do that and hear from you guys right after this. We'll be right back.
So that is one of many places in our community. I mean, there's some places I just happen to find some of this information about these kiddos, and it just breaks my heart because lead poisoning is so dangerous. Again, if you don't know much about it, I just want to bring up some facts for you guys. So there is a really great resource on kid health. So lead poisoning happens when you get too much lead into the body and where this or through the skin, or even breathing, eating, or drinking. When lead gets in the body, it can travel through and basically it becomes really harmful. Okay, so who gets typically lead poisoning? This is an interesting little area that they basically said this is who typically gets lead poisoning. Lead is toxic to everyone, but unborn babies and young children 6 months to 3 years old, they're at greater risk for health problems from lead poisoning. So young children absorb lead more easier than older kids and adults. That blows my mind, but it makes sense because those kids are so little. Their body is pure. So they said a couple of things that I thought was interesting. How do they get it? So it can be found in streets, in homes, water, food stored in certain types of bowls. So you want to look at, this is another area too, you want to look at the type of Tupperware you're using in your centers. You want to look at the Tupperware at home. Maybe you encourage your families to like look at all of the different things that they're using in their homes, making sure that there's not lead in those or high contents of lead. Toys, jewelry, sports objects such as like, or I guess, yes, sports objects, and then also to objects like stained glass, ink, paint, plaster, those kind of things. So what are some signs of lead poisoning? So headaches, behavioral problems and trouble concentrating, you guys, come on. That's a big one. We always chop it up to the kids just being bad, or maybe the child doesn't have enough structure at home, or all this stuff. When have we ever asked, when was your house built? Or where do you live? Like, unless a parent says, like, you know, I have mold in my house or I have something going on, like, we are not going to know unless we ask the right questions, right? Loss of appetite, lost weight, nausea and vomiting, constipation, almost like a Metallica taste in their mouth. Tired feeling, muscles and joints really weaken, and they look pale. So these are the different ways of, or different symptoms of it. So lead poisoning can be treated, but it's not an easy thing to treat. I know, like, they'll use like calcium, iron, vitamin C. These are really important to children's diets, and they also have they help decrease lead poisoning, so it helps absorb them. So those are just a few things that I got from Kid Health that I thought were really helpful. You guys, when you're looking at your student, there's that term of the whole child, right? Look at the whole child. Look at every part of their life. Look at every part of who they are. That is going to help dictate what you need to do. We're going to be looking at a checklist. It's called Strengthening Families, and we're going to look through it. I think it's really good. It's long, super long, but the questions that are asked are very intentional and very awesome. So now that you have completed this portion of the lecture, go ahead and continue on to the next module. I hope this was helpful and makes you think about things a little bit differently, and makes you think about what can you do different in your classroom when it comes to looking at the whole child and really asking the right questions. So post below what you think, what your thoughts are, what you've learned, what child are you thinking of right now as we're talking about this. I mean, you guys, I'm thinking of so many things. I hope you guys are just as engaged with this conversation and really thinking about what can we do different. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.